Okay. I'm back. District Council Revenue and Finance Policy Deliberations agenda. Can I have some apologies for this? The apologies been offered?
Mr. Mayor, we've got Councillor Howard, I believe, is an apology, and Councillor Manderson.
Okay. I'll move that.
Did you put an apology in, or did he just leave?
He just left, I think. Manderson.
Put an apology.
I'll move that. Can I have a second, please? Councillor Williams, thank you. All those in favour, raise your hands. So
Aye.
okay. Confirmation of agenda. I'll move that. Can I have a second? No?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favour, raise your hands. So aye. Okay, just to tell people that are listening to this, we're going to maybe briefly move into publicly excluded to discuss the legal opinion, and then we're going to move back to open session unless members decide that they do not need to discuss the legal opinion. Okay. We won't. Okay. Revenue and Finance Policy Review, Deliberations Legal Opinion, text 1.1. No, we're in the
Item 5. We're still in open.
We're still on open. But I can put this through as a.
So your members don't want to go into PECs to discuss the legal opinion, so we're not going to do that part of the meeting. We're just going to move into item 5, which is the first report,
Okay, item 5. Yes,
which is deliberations.
I get you. That's unusual. Okay. Item 5, Revenue and Financing Policy Review, Deliberations and Overview. Can I get a mover for that, please?
Well,
Thank you, Councillor Vincent. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Lambeth. All right. Reporting staff members for that. There's Sue Davidson and Christine Toms. Thank you.
Well, I thought that Councillor Rachel wanted to move into public exclusion.
I was about to propose why we weren't going into public excluded for that first item.
If anyone wanted to discuss the legal opinion, there was no one that raised their hand, so then we didn't, and we moved on to item 5.
So to be clear,
It might be that everyone's talking really quietly.
Council, the legal opinion is provided in PECs because it's legally privileged. If you had any questions on it, we would have gone into PECs to discuss this, but it was indicated there were no questions on it. This is provided for your information to inform you on the options in front of you. So you don't need to discuss it. And we've moved past that. We're now moving to item 5 on the agenda, which has been moved and seconded.
If you want to move that we go under public excluded, then you could do that.
No, second.
You don't want to?
Okay.
Right. Okay, so Sue Davidson, Christine Toms, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the revenue and financing policy and the way you go about devising a new policy is quite prescriptive, and especially when you're looking at major changes like moving from land value to capital value. And we went through a process. You looked at the principles you wanted. We had a consultant come in and looked at various options for you in terms of how we would rate the various categories of land. And we went out to submissions, and you can see that we got really good input. We got 177 submissions on the revenue and financing policy, and we want to get this policy adopted prior to adopting the annual plan. The principles that were adopted are on page 2, and that's probably all I'll say. And there's two topics we went out on: the land value versus capital value and the differentials, and then we looked at equalising storm water. So perhaps we look at, do you want to add to the conversation? Okay, so we'll just take questions. So that's on the overview first. Is that what you want to do? And there's some recommendations there.
Questions?
The question are not on legal one, right? Aspects of.
Questions on this item? No questions? Thank you, Sue.
Is it, I'll ask a question.
Want to ask a question? Okay.
So just considering the time, is it possible that we implement it in next year?
So yes, and that's, I think, I've given you some options. So in the first one, it's just an overview, and it's basically saying that you understand that we went through this decision-making process, and that we want to present the revenue and financing policy to you before we adopt the annual plan. Then there's topic 1, which is land value versus capital value, and we've given you some options there. So the first one, if you want to go to that paper, you can go there. No, okay.
Apologies. Then you just need to agree this and move to the next item.
Is there a mover and a seconder? Yeah, we've done that. Councillor Vincent moved it, Councillor Lambert seconded it.
That was,
Even here. I'm sorry.
Been a long day.
Councillor Vincent, you had a question?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I guess I'd like some direction on, I'm struggling with, there's a preponderance of people opposed to changing from the status quo. One of my concerns is that I think some people are misinformed about what we were trying to do, in that they saw it as the council doing another rates grab, wanting to collect more money as opposed to a redistribution, same amount of money. So that was sort of clouding the issue for some. And there were others who were obviously directly affected, and they found that contrary to what we thought in theory should happen, they were going to end up paying more rates even though they had a lower value property. So, that's where I have some confusion. So I suppose it's for us to decide how much weight we attach to the numbers in terms of how many people.
Excuse me, Councillor Vincent, you're almost referring to the next item, which is 6.1, topic 1, land value versus capital value agreed differential.
What we had moved on to, or is that to be treated as a separate item?
Yeah.
Okay.
Separate pages.
Okay, on preamble in.
My apologies, because on this agenda, that's what.
Yeah, okay, I'll go with that.
And we have a separate motion there as well, okay?
Okay, so my question is, it's kind of a philosophical one, is to what extent should we be guided by the numbers? And to what extent should we, as the governance body, want to provide leadership to the community, even if that indication of leadership of our motivations acting in the best interests of the community overall, we should go with what the minority want.
I can answer that through you, Mr. Mayor. Look, it is a very philosophical question, Councillor Vincent, and welcome to the life of being an elected member. That is entirely up to you all to weigh up in your minds and vote accordingly, and that's your job. Can I just draw us back just a little bit, because there's rich conversation here. It's probably for the next item. You're just doing the overview right now, and we did have the recommendations on the screen. They've been moved and seconded, Mr. Mayor. Probably ask for any questions, and then they could speak to it.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, staff. So, Councillor Vincent, your mover statement.
Getting myself back on track, I think that the motion here is largely procedural, and it's just the introduction to the more substantive items that we will move on to consider.
Councillor Lambeth,
No, Councillor Vincent said everything.
the other elected members want to speak? No, okay, members, right reply. Councillor Vincent,
Nothing to add, Mayor?
okay, all those in favour raise their hand, say aye. Against, motion carried. Let's move on to 6.1. And I'm going to move on 6.1 that we address this item by, I'm going to move item C, which approves option 3, which considers further review and additional community consultation on moving to CV for the general rate after a further review of the principles in the 25-26 year. So I'm going to move that. Can I have a second that?
I'd like to move something different to that.
It hasn't been seconded, Mr. Mayor.
I did.
There was an alternate. I think Councillor Larson's prepared to move something.
You move it, please, Councillor Larson.
Move what?
The alternate
Motion that you'll.
motion. Did you get that one? I sent you the motion I want to put up. I read the wrong one. Oh, I'm sorry, Alana, could you put that up on the board, please? It's been a long day.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, just so I'm clear, so you're effectively got an alternate motion up there from that which the staff have reported to you. But you're moving an option 3.
I'm happy to second that.
So that reads out, just for your benefit, everybody, that undertakes further review and additional community consultation on moving to CV for the general rate after a further review of the principles to ensure adoption of an amended revenue and financing policy prior to the 2025 local government elections. That's why it looked like what I was going to move here. And I've got a seconder.
Is it seconded?
So, Mr. Mayor, moved an alternate motion. It's been seconded. Before we move to questions, I'm sure there will be some. Perhaps the staff can report. Is that okay?
Well, does it? Yeah, that doesn't much matter, but does it? Is it sort of almost seems a little bit contradictory? I have seconded this, that it says approves option 3 when the recommendations is approves option 3 as well. Is it an identical option 3 or just further words for clarification? Okay, thank you.
Can you just delete the first 3 words? It's option 3.
I'd be happy with that as the seconder if the mover wanted that to occur.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
So you're approved to undertake further review.
It just undertakes. Still trying to understand it myself, but
Undertakes. Yeah, you happy, Councillor Larson? You happy with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
no apologies. Okay. Who's presenting this item?
Sue and Christine.
Sue and Christine again?
Through the chair, we'll just tell you some, basically what's come through, that we had a lot of opposition to this, but sometimes it was confusing for people, as Councillor Vincent has pointed out, because rates are not simple. But the key concern was about affordability and the continued rates increases, and that they were getting more of that residential people were getting more of the CV burden, which we knew when we looked at the papers that had been put out, that the burden was moving off rural and onto residential. I think, is there anything you wanted to add to that? No, I think it's. And so that we thought that the consultation showed that the community are most in support of retaining the status quo, just because it was to keep the budgets within affordable limits. Well, they felt that it wasn't affordable to them. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Open for questions. Councillor Aaron Wilson-Gold.
So my question is just about the motion, because I also was trying to figure it out. So am I correct that that would then mean that we won't be making a decision on CV, LV before the next annual plan, but before the end of the triennium? Yeah, for the next, yeah. Cool.
So we would look at that and start that probably some of the discussion maybe in May before we go out, but the consultation wouldn't occur till after 30th of June.
I'll just say the words again, please. Time misunderstood.
Review, additional community consultation.
And so we do a further round. I guess this is a question, if I may ask, Mr. Mayor. Yeah. So we're doing a further review of the principles and a further consultation with the community, and time for us to go through the process and have hearings of submissions and deliberations, and make a decision of those deliberations, amend the policy before September.
So what we would be able to do is we don't have to do step one of revenue and financing, which is we look at every single activity. We would just do the part two, where you're looking at CV land value and looking at the issues that people raised and about perhaps where the burden should be and get the right level of burden and look at how we could do that and you'd have to relook at your principles and say, well, this is what we had. What's wrong with them, or what do we, in view of the fact that we had listened to people at the first consultation, and do we want to change it?
My concern is just about timing, that's all. So I'd like to know from staff if they think there would be enough time to achieve what that motion's required.
Yes, so we think it's probably going to be a couple of meetings up front before we actually then have to prepare consultation documentation. Could be 3 meetings, but before we have to prepare consultation documentation to go out, if that's what council chooses to do. So we would do all that, but with the council, but not actually going out to consultation until the new year. So that would be around about end of July, August, and then coming back to council for approval. And it's yes, in the new financial year, and it's a carry. You know, you're carrying on what you started, so it's not like you're starting anything new. So it's along the lines of what's already been proposed, but you're looking at whether you may need to change some of the principles.
So I'm thinking this could lead to just a comment. So would it be like we get to press releases prepared after this meeting? We say, we heard you. We're not going to just push this through roughshod. We want to see what the possibilities are to modify that. Am I on the right track?
Well, we would have to, so through you, Mr. Mayor, we would have to draft a press release based on the conversation today, which we haven't quite yet had.
Yeah.
If that is the will of what the feedback is.
Thinking what the thrust of that resolution is.
Yeah.
Is that the nature of it?
Remembering that the members and the mover and the second haven't even spoken to the motion yet. So.
Councillor Noah, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is can we make it more clear, just putting before the election? I think we can't decide after. Deputy Mayor will probably know better. July, some date, you cannot make a decision, is it? There is some regulations. You cannot make some decisions. I don't know, probably you have a timeline.
I'll defer to the Chief Executive, but but my understanding is because this is the same decision that you've been promoting, for the last 6 months, that you can make that decision. So
Sorry, Councillor Nair, specifically, what is your question?
Well, the question is, I think by law, the council is, cannot make important decisions after July or something like that.
That is incorrect.
I read somewhere.
No, that is incorrect. Council has the ability to make decisions right up until election day. Good practice is not to make significant decisions in the pre-election period, which is 3 months prior to the election. However, there is a reflection that if a body of work has been ongoing and whatever feedback the council and whatever decisions the council makes today, provided, then it is within the remit of the council to make the decision right up until election day.
All I'm saying is, I mean, I'm not suggesting an amendment, but the very fact that we use the word election here gives us a big leverage. Why don't we just say that it will be applicable next year? Because anything we do after July, you cannot hold for annual policy.
So you, Mr. Mayor, that's entirely up to you as a council. So the only thing I would say to that point, though, is at the moment, this council has travelled and traversed through a significant process already. We've gone through public consultation, hearings,
Yeah.
now you're at deliberation.
Yeah.
If this motion is moved forward, and remember, we haven't got the reasoning yet for the motion, so just bear with that in mind. If it passes, then, we'll go through another consultation process, and that's fine. We will manage that prior to the elections. I think personally, it's a smart thing to do to get the decision done prior to the elections, because then otherwise you leave a new council to make a decision on this, and that would be extremely unfair. I think it's the best approach is to complete the process prior to the election.
What new we are asking the people?
Like I said, you have to hear from the mover of the motion first, so you can understand the intent behind it.
Okay, any further questions? Councillor Lambert.
I'm sure the CEO would jump on me if this question's inappropriate, but we've felt a lot of confusion from the constituents with the consultation process. Have you felt the same? There's a lot of uncertainty out there. Or?
this is a big decision for people, and there is some confusion, but you can go out again and there could be the same level of confusion. I mean, the clarity that people had was they could actually look up on the website and find out what they would be paying.
Yeah. Well, one thing I did notice that when it did come down to the crunch and people got interest in it, that ability was taken away from them. So a lot of them, I felt, wanted to have another look at it as far as their calculation. Yeah, but
So that was problematic because we actually linked it to the submission. So we wanted to stop the submission.
yes, yeah, I know exactly why it was there.
Not
And they gained interest with the submissions and all that. They went to do it again, and it wasn't fine.
So this time, when we put it out, they'll know, if those people are interested, they'll know to look.
Yeah.
Any further questions? All right, let's move a statement myself. Yeah, look, we had the deliberations, right, and people came and gave their view about what they were looking at. And it was obvious to me that a lot of people weren't happy. And I think I totally agree with Councillor Vincent's statement that they misunderstood what the intention. They thought we were trying to make a bigger pie rather than change the way it's distributed amongst the ratepayers. And the genuine intent, I think, is to try and put given that I've always said there's no such thing as a totally fair rate system, we've got to try and give the best and fairest that we can. And that's why I wanted to further relook at this and put it out there so that we can get a greater understanding in our community. Okay, Councillor Larson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I think that our consultation didn't go as well as it could have. I think that the way that the differentials were put in there was arbitrary and blunt. And it ended up with too many highs and lows, which resulted in probably the majority of the submissions that we've seen from people that looked up their own rates and went, they're going up or they were quite motivated against the whole idea. I think that the idea of changing has merit, but we need to find a way to not have such big highs and lows for people and smooth it out, and we don't have time to do that this year. And it's worth having another look at. I think that some people did view it positively. But we need to have more time to look at it. If we're going to bring in differentials between different property classifications, they need to be based on more in-depth analysis, I think. Don't want to do it in an arbitrary way that swings it too hard one way or the other for different property groups. So I think this is a good approach. Allows us to have another look at it, but doesn't put us under unreasonable timeframes where we can't meet our statutory requirements under the Act for our annual plan. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Naya.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All I want to say is obviously, well, as long as the intention is good, it's a good idea. But if we are doing something like that, I think we should also, regardless of whatever legal opinion we got, look at the differentials as proposed by MMI to see whether we can make it work through as less confusing to the ratepayers and less affect the majority of it, because the message we got from most of people is that it is not what it was promised. So if the effect is minimal by using those differential, which was beautifully presented by MMI, I think we stand a better chance. So yeah, I'm all for it, but I was using the word as elections and whatnot. I don't think it gives a good look on a very hard-working council. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Williams.
Yeah, look, I agree with what Councillor Last and others have said around the table. I think there was a level of confusion, and I think that we could potentially do give a next time and a little bit clearer, and I think it's a really good idea, especially with something as important as this, that we are going back out to not put things right, but just to consult on a really important matter. So I do support this.
Thank you. Councillor Erin Wilson-Collins.
Thank you. I don't want to be mean to the public, but there are comments in the comment section that do give the impression that some people didn't understand fully what the consultation was about. However, in saying that, there's a lot of people that didn't comment. You know, you add up those comments, they don't necessarily correlate to how many people submitted. So whilst I appreciate that, that maybe on the one hand it could be a good exercise to just double check where the public is lying with this decision, it could be that they come back still opposing the any change, and they may still want a status quo. So I think that's something that we need to be very mindful of, especially if we go out twice for consultation and they still say no. What exactly is it that we are trying to achieve? So I can see values on both sides of the coin, and I was very interested to get the consultation from the community. Throughout this process, I've actually flipped, you know, all around the place, seeing the benefits and the constraints on both sides. and hadn't landed and still haven't landed anywhere. But I think once if we're going out again, which I don't totally agree with the timing of it. I think if we've been for consultation, we probably just need to move on and go through it the next time it's actually appropriate to do it, instead of using up staff resources. But if this is what the council votes for, I can also see some good in it. I just, caution what that second lot of consultation comes back at still needs to be seen with an open mind, because it may not be the answer that we're obviously looking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lambeth?
Yes, thank you, Mr. I have to agree with Councillor Wilson-Collins. It's of all the decisions that I've gone through, this is the one that has really, really twisted me and pulled me back and forward each way. You gathered from my questioning before on my views on it. You're not going to get people who win from a calculation to come forward, put their head above the trench. So they're going to keep very quiet. So it'll always be the ones who have more incentive to make a submission when it doesn't go in their favour. It's a very, very difficult one. We are balancing up economic prosperity in a small town like this, and because we've got such a small population, the variables can be very great one way or another very quickly. So I think it's got to be addressed that we're cautious and we realise that people weren't happy and there was issues on clarity, and we've got to go out to the public again to ask them on that issue. That can only be portrayed as a council who has come up with an issue which is of such importance and concern to the public, rather than being one that is undecisive. Thank you.
Okay, further comments? All right. Movers right a reply. I think we've covered this and everyone's given their views, and I believe we've pretty much got an agreement that we need to go out again and have another talk with our community. So that's why I support this motion that we put forward. So all those in favour raise their hand and say aye. Aye. Against?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion carried. 6.2, equalising stormwater capital costs.
Option, well, B, thanks.
Councillor Williams wants to move option B. Can I have a seconder for that?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Christine and Sue again, thank you.
So through the chair, we got a number of those in opposition, and principally what we actually wanted to put this up for was for simplifying and removing large increases in the rates when capital is spent, and equalising it more like the target rates for water and wastewater, because it supports each community. But it came through that the people didn't want us to support each other, and they believed that areas shouldn't subsidise others for stormwater. So, and they wanted the status quo, which was what's been proposed. I haven't got anything further to add.
Okay, any question?
Yeah, just one question. So do you have a recommendation for B or D as a staff?
So councillor,
Recommendation by the rules.
No, because I think we talked about it before. And we talked about it has to be equalized all over the district. That was few months ago.
that was our proposal. We went out to consultation.
So now we are, okay, B, okay, thank you.
Any other questions, please? No further questions. Thank you, staff. Councillor Williams, move the statement, please.
Yeah, obviously with 50% of the submitters not.
Would you speak up, please?
With 50% of the submitters not supporting this change, and looking at the graph, the table down on page 3 with the moves, decreases, increases across the district. I think at this point it would be this decision not equalise, and it could be something for further review at a later date.
Thank you. Councillor Larson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I think there's sort of some similarities with topic 1 and this one as well. I don't know how much people understood the question. We had a majority of people across the whole district, whether it was Mangawhai or Otamatia or Wairau, all saying they didn't want to change it. And I think that's the table on page 14. When you look at the impacts, I think it was a more moderate change. It might have been palatable, but some of the changes are so significant. You know, you got 141 people with a $200, $400 increase. In Mangawhai, you got 19 with getting more than a $400 increase. And I know some people over there that are already paying $11,000 just for one residential section. It starts to go beyond the pale when you go and whack that on. I haven't looked at the mechanisms here, but it's just with it being on land value, those are high land value properties, and they're just paying through the nose for possibly not even having a single culvert in their street by the looks of it, because there's very little there. So yeah, it's just not good timing, and it's too blunt, a bit like where we landed with the differentials with the LBCV. So I support the motion that's been put. Thank you.
Any other elected members wish to speak?
So is it, can we put the motion on the top? Because you say A or B?
B.
Is it B? Okay.
Councillor Williams moved B.
Sorry?
Councillor Williams moved B.
Yeah,
Yeah.
topic 2, the report is topic 2.
Yeah, so for some reason I don't have anyway. So no, I do support Councillor Williams B, for the reason is causing less confusion. We are already shaken the minds and bodies of the ratepayers with so many changes. As Councillor Larson mentioned, I think the change is not huge, but I think we should leave it for the time and let it be what it is.
Procedural question. If I may.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, I guess inspired by what Councillor Larson said, he sees it somewhat akin to the previous issue that we dealt with. If that were the case, then we would be looking to alter the wording in the motion to include a revised or a renewed consultation process in tandem with the capital value land value rating. Would that not be the case?
Mr. Mayor, so this is up to the council. You can make a decision on this. We've put it in front of you to make a decision on. You're nearly there on this one. The previous resolution was all about reconsulting on the CV versus L.
And I'm weighing up whether I should move to replace the motion with an amendment being the first option, which I think can be supported philosophically. However, I would also be open to the idea, well, we have another look at it. Can I just explain that? Because I think there was a large measure of people not understanding that it's only people inside stormwater drainage districts who would be liable for this, not the district as a whole. And there could have been a number of people putting in submissions who are outside drainage districts who are not affected by it, who were opposed to it. But just because they didn't know that, because I don't think that was something that was brought out very well in the consultation document. Could be wrong about that. But so I just, that's what my motivation is. If we were able to explain this better to people, because I also believe that in the long term, it is in everyone's interest to equalise things so that when the time comes for a major project in a specific drainage district, that the impact would be buffered. So, would it be appropriate, Mr. Mayor, would you entertain a motion for me to amend this motion in line with the previous motion? And I just wonder what the mover and the seconder think of that. Whether they might
But
even.
you, Mr. Mayor, so councillor Vincent, you've got to either move an amendment or not.
Okay, well, I could, but is it not possible if the mover and the seconder agree to alter the motion accordingly, that could be done by consent?
I think I've got the ability to do that. What do you think?
Well, sorry,
I was just going to say, I'm happy at this point with what
Okay.
I can't change it without the consent of mover, but what I would say is I think that there are similarities, but I think they're both quite different. One's a much more specific issue, whereas the LVCV conversation is a much bigger change. And I think we had a lot more sort of feedback or maybe misunderstanding around that one. And I think we have an opportunity to address that. I think personally that the stormwater equalisation one, although important, is not as nearly as significant. And I think it's probably something that does need to be addressed, but could probably better wait until the next long-term plan review. And the reason I say that also partly is that we've got so much consultation coming up with the district plan and the annual plan, and I think we're just going to run out of room and time to do this one as well. So that's why I would prefer to leave it how it is.
I will not request an amendment to the act. I will just, when it's my turn, I'll state my opposition.
Good. Councillor Lambert.
I think on the last one.
Sorry, did you finish your statement?
Oh, kind of finished. Thank you.
Yeah. So as a second, sorry, we've had
We've had councillor Williams, councillor Larson,
okay.
councillor Mayer.
Any other elected members wish to speak? Right. Councillor Lambert.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if we have a look at page 3, and we've got that nice little graph there which shows increase and decrease, and Doug will modify another. If I was going to go totally against the oath I swore a turn a bit years ago and act for my ward only, I'd say let's go for it and let's change this. But I'm not, because when you have a look at those numbers, the proportion of hurt for some other ratepayers is double the gains from others. So I think what we need is stability at present. We need things which people can bank on and can plan. We don't need some people getting a $2,300 decrease in their rates and others getting a $5,700 increase. We don't need that this time. We need to simplify things. Let's get this solidified on how it was, and then we can move on to that CV and LV issue with not muddying the water.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just briefly, firstly, I think it's an opportunity missed where when the big shocks come in smaller drainage districts, this is an equitable way of smoothing that impact, should we have taken it. And however, thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Excuse me. Councillor Wimmonds, your move is right and replied. Okay, I put it to the vote. All those in favour, raise their hand and say aye. Aye. Those against?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. All right, I now close this meeting. Thank you for your attendance, everybody. We're offline.